If you follow the latest smartphone releases, you probably heard of the Xiaomi 17 Ultra. And if you heard of the Xiaomi 17 Ultra, maybe you also have heard about the LOFIC sensor, this new technology that comes with the sensor on the Xiaomi 17 Ultra. That's actually not the only phone with the LOFIC technology. The Xiaomi has already released in China the Xiaomi 17 Pro and 17 Ultra that also has this technology called LOFIC, which is actually an Omnivision sensor technology. But what is actually LOFIC, what it does and how it works? Well, after you watching this video, I hope you understand what LOFIC is and how it works in a simple manner. Okay, so let's go. Camera sensors do a very simple thing. They measure light. That's all camera sensors do. This measurement is converted to electrons, and you measure those electrons, then you have the amount of light is hitting a pixel. That's pretty much how a sensor works. So to make it simple, let's pretend the pixels on your smartphone sensor are buckets capturing water in the rain. So that's pretty much what a sensor do. It captures light, but let's pretend it's buckets capturing water. Let's say you have 100 buckets or 100 pixels in this case, and you need to decide an amount of time you're gonna leave those buckets outside to measure water. So you put 100 buckets outside on the street and you start measuring. You set 1 minute for all the buckets. You can't remove the buckets randomly. You have to remove all at once. So that's your shutter speed, is your exposure time. In the case of your sensor, you need to expose the pixels to light for X amount of time. Then let's say you set 1 minute for your buckets to be outside capturing water from the rain, and for some weird reason someone goes to some of those buckets for 10 buckets and they start filling the buckets with a hose, which makes those 10 buckets fill up way faster. Let's say 10 seconds they are already filled up and overflowing. When the bucket overflow, you can't measure it anymore. You have just a simple information that is full. The bucket is full. You can't measure the amount of water that was overflowing. All you know is the bucket is full. The same happens with your sensor. Let's say you're recording at night in the city and you set your exposure time for the amount of light of the night, which will be a high exposure time to give enough time for the pixels to capture the light at night, which is not much light. So you set the exposure, you're at night, but you have something like an LED panel on your shot, you have fire, you have fireworks. Those things have way more light than the rest of your scene. And what will happen with the pixels capturing this light that is way higher than the rest of the scene? They will blown up, they will overflow. You're gonna have, the only information you're gonna have is pure white. You're not gonna have any other information on those pixels. So you have a few ways to fix this. Let's say you can change the exposure time. For example, if all the buckets are outside for 1 minute, but the buckets being filled up by a hose get full at 10 seconds, you can change the exposure time, the amount of time you're gonna leave the buckets outside for 9 seconds, for example, instead of 1 minute. So you remove all the buckets in 9 seconds, you're gonna have information on the buckets that were being filled up by a hose, but the other buckets are gonna have almost no water, pretty much no water. It's gonna be pure black. So on your sensor, if you take this to your sensor, your night scene is gonna be pretty much pure black. There wasn't enough time to capture the little amount of light of the night scene, but you're gonna capture with information the highlight, the LED panel, the fireworks, or everything that didn't get filled up, the buckets that didn't get filled up in those 9 seconds, 10 seconds. And this is where LOFIC comes in. That's how LOFIC fix this problem. LOFIC stands for lateral overflow integration capacitor, if I'm not wrong. So it's a capacitor that will store those electrons, so you have a measurement on those buckets that are being overflown. Taking it to our bucket example, it would be like you make a dent on the buckets, and all the buckets have now another bucket, a second bucket, maybe a way bigger bucket that will store the water that the bucket is being overflown, and throws this water in a reservoir that you can measure later. That's all what LOFIC does. It's a capacitor that's gonna capture all the electrons, store the electrons that are being overflown by the pixels that are getting too much light for the exposure time. So you're gonna have information there. It's not gonna be pure white on those pixels on the fire that you're recording at night, or the fireworks, or the LED panel. You're gonna have information there because you're storing every single pixel. We're gonna have a reservoir to store this water that's, if in case of overflowing, it's gonna store there, so you can measure it later. You're gonna know, oh, there's like 2, 4, 5 liters more than what the pixel can handle, but it's stored. If you don't have this storage, this reservoir, you can't measure it. So that's pretty much what LOFIC does. This way you can keep your exposure time, and you can keep the details, the information on the dark side of the scene, so you don't have to reduce your exposure time and lose all the information, and not have enough time to capture the information on the dark side of your scene, but you're gonna also keep the information on the very bright side of your scene, because even though it's overflowing the pixel with too much light, you have a reservoir to store this information and you can measure it later. So that's it, and I hope you understood what I tried to explain here. Please let me know in the comments if you understood how LOFIC works, if now you understand what this technology is, what it does. And that's it for this video. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and all those things, and I see you on the next one.